This is fun. Heck of a player. Devin's a heck of a player. The best team's going to win.
It's a Booker bonanza. Bridges to Booker, back to Bridges.
This is a really big win for us. It's only one game. We have another one Tuesday that we're getting ready for.
Good day. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you for hanging with us. Max Kellerman, how we feeling? How we living?
Ready to go?
All right. Stephen A. will be with us in just a moment. He's in Phoenix getting all settled. Obviously, he's got a Stephen A. Sports Center tonight. That'll be fun. And, of course, the game. Let's talk about it. Game 2 tonight. Obviously, they're in Phoenix, the home team with a 1-0 lead. Kawhi Leonard is out again with a sprained knee. Chris Paul is also listed as out due to COVID health and safety protocols. Suns are favored by 5.5. Max Kellerman, if the Clippers lose tonight and go down 0-2, will they come back like they've done in these playoffs against the Mavs and the Jazz?
Oh, I'm not ruling that out. The Clippers can lose 2 on the road, especially without Kawhi Leonard, and they can come back in this series. How do I know? They've done it twice in these playoffs. How do I know? What's the greatest comeback in the history of the NBA? It's the Cleveland Cavaliers coming all the way back on the Golden State Warriors, down 3-1 to the greatest team ever, right? 73 wins, and they came all the way back. And who was the coach of that team? And that's, before we even get to the rosters, what I want to talk about. Ty Lue's the best coach in the NBA. He's the guy I'd want. Listen, apologies, Greg Popovich, who's the argument for greatest coach of all time. Eric Spoelstra's a great coach. You have great coaches around the league. But if I had to choose one guy, I'm considering everything, developing players, getting, their confidence right, the X's and O's, making adjustments in series, all that stuff, experience, age, factor everything in. Give me Ty Lue. I think he's the best coach in the NBA. He's the guy you want. And that's the coach you got. Now, the Clippers just went to the end of a game on the road where the Suns needed, no, they didn't have Chris Paul. The Clippers didn't have Kawhi. On the road, in front of a great raucous hometown crowd for the Suns, with a 40-point triple-double and nearly flawless play from Devin Booker, the Clippers came that close to winning the game. No Kawhi. That close to winning the game. By the skin of their teeth, they lost. If they lose another competitive game to the Suns on the road, can they come back and win this series, provided Kawhi comes back? Do they have a Finals MVP on the team? No, they have a 2-time Finals MVP on the team if Kawhi's playing. Paul George has stepped up, and playoff P, it now goes back to meaning like actually he can play when it matters most. They have an excellent supporting cast, playoff Rondo, and the best coach in the game. Yes, they can do it again. All the Suns will have done if they win the first 2 games is defend home court.
Yeah.
Clippers still going to have to win a game on the road, but the answer is you cannot count them out. They can do it.
And Max, the other thing I want to point out, you talked about Paul George stepping it up. Post-game press conference after game 1, he talked about that. Now we're just going to go back, watch the film, and work on those adjustments that you said Ty Lue is so fantastic at. I think we have Stephen A. now. Mr. Smith, you with us, sir?
I can hear y'all fine. I can't see y'all, but I can hear you. How y'all doing?
We
can
see you.
see you.
You're looking good. All right, so Stephen A., tell me this. If the Clippers lose tonight and they go down 0-2, do you think they'll come back again like they have in this playoffs we saw with the Mavs and the Jazz?
No. I think this is a different beast. I think when you were going against the Utah Jazz, as sensational as I believe Donovan Mitchell is, he was the only guy on the court that could make a play for himself. The rest of them were completely dependent on him and what he created for them in order for them to score the ball. And when you're playing against stout athletes like the Los Angeles Clippers with Kawhi, with Paul George, even though Kawhi wasn't there the last 3 games, but with a Paul George, with Reggie Jackson, who's playing for a new contract and playing lights out, with Morris and everybody else, I mean, you're going to have to show up. In the case of the Phoenix Suns, that's not their issue. CP3 might be out, but Devin Booker, the second coming of Kobe Bryant, as far as I'm concerned, when you look at the kind of show he's capable of putting on, that's one element. When you look at Cameron Payne coming off the bench and subbing for CP3, I think that's another element. When you look at Mikal Bridges and the way that he's been playing, you look at the experience of a Jay Crowder, who's as tough as nails. all of these different things. You've got guys that are capable of creating their own shots and making things happen and able to match the athleticism that the Los Angeles Clippers are going to be able to throw at them, if not exceed it. So when I look at it from that perspective, I say if you go down 0-2, now the question is, are you going to beat the Phoenix Suns, the number 2 seed in the entire NBA? Are you going to beat the Phoenix Suns 4 times over the next 5 games? I do not see that happening. If the Los Angeles Clippers don't win this series tonight, I think they win this game tonight. I think they lose the series. And there's no disrespect. I mean, you look at Ty Lue and the kind of adjustments he's capable of making. Hats off to him. The great job that he has done. Brooklyn misses him. They should have hired him. The Lakers missed him. They should have hired him. Well, the Clippers got him, and he's done a hell of a job this postseason. No question about it. But in the end, without Kawhi Leonard and being down 0-2, ultimately with CP3 coming back, we know he's coming back. We don't know that about Kawhi Leonard. Los Angeles Clippers lose game 2. Los Angeles Clippers lose this series.
Listen, all the Suns will have done is defend home court. Like every series that has ever been played, either we go up, home team may be in trouble. Team with home court, they lost home court. You know, all you need to do is get a split on the road, or, okay, they defended home court. Now, you're right. Clippers are going to have to get a win on the road. I don't see that happening without Kawhi Leonard. They don't have Kawhi Leonard. They lose game 2. Of course, they're going to lose. Terrence Mann can play, and you and I have been talking about that earlier in the season. The kid can play. He's not Kawhi Leonard. But if Kawhi comes back, this team is excellent in terms of its top stars, MVP caliber, especially in the finals, in the playoffs. We've seen Kawhi do that. They have a second banana in Paul George, who has stepped up. Mentioned Rondo. You mentioned the play of Reggie Jackson. Terrence Mann stepped up, and he can actually play. That's not a fluke. Morris, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
they got a really good and deep team, Stephen A., and the best coach in the business.
Well, I get where you're coming from, Max, and we can't summarily dismiss that, particularly with what we've seen from the Clippers. But I do think it's important to ask yourself the other question that I posed a bit earlier. Could you see the Phoenix Suns losing 4 times over the next 5 games? We've seen no evidence of that. As a matter of fact, the only thing that comes close to qualifying as evidence when you're talking about the Phoenix Suns is if you're willing to say, excuse me, they're kind of allergic to prosperity, because throughout this season, they've been known to give up some big leads. They get a bit comfortable with themselves once they know they could blow somebody out and run them out of the gym. You know what? They tend to slack off a little bit. You could make that argument. That's about it. And I just think that that's what we have to look at when we look at this team. And we got to look at a guy like a Devin Booker, and I'm going to keep bringing his name up. This is his first ever playoff.
Well, Devin Booker, we lost Stephen A. for a second. Devin Booker, as I've been saying, is the mini Mamba. So that going into these playoffs, in the sense that he's not as tall as Kobe was quite. He's not as good defensively. He can't get his own shot to the extent that Kobe could, but who could, right?
And we are going to discuss that later. Perk's going to join us for that conversation if he is the next Kobe Bryant.
Booker can score from anywhere like Kobe, and he's fearless. And we saw them go 8-0 in the bubble, led by Devin Booker, who was the best player in the bubble, in the regular season bubble last year, and they picked up where they left off. But Stephen A., to go to your point about can I see the Clippers winning 4 out of 5, it's not the way I look at it. So far, if the Suns win game 2, they've held home court, and barely. They barely won game 1. So that says the Clippers are very competitive with them, obviously. If the Clippers hold home court, which is all you're supposed to do, now it's a 2-2 series. The Suns can win back in Phoenix. The Clippers can win back in LA. It'll come down to a game 7. It will come down to, as it always does, is the reason you want home court, because the team that goes up 2-0 is likely to win. You're right. Can you win them? Can you beat them 4 out of 5 going forward? But if home court simply holds, then it comes down to the Clippers needing to win a game 7 on the road. Can they do that? I think they can.
Well, first of all, you already lost this argument because you said that's not the way you look at it. And we don't really mind how you look at basketball. We don't pay attention to that, Max
Who's we?
Gilman, because you come up with a whole bunch of things to, with some of your theories and what have you straight out of Columbia. And that's what your definition of basketball is. You can look at it that way. And it's very plausible. It's not like your arguments are implausible or anything like that. I'm not trying to accuse you of such a thing. But what I'm saying is that you got to go series by series, and you have to pay attention to who you're going up against. I totally get what you're saying about the Clippers. You're not wrong. I'm not dismissing it. It's not like you're ignorant about the game of basketball. I'm not accusing you of that. I'm simply saying that when you look at the level of competition that they're going up against in this particular series, the Clippers beat you because you know what? Whether it's with Kawhi and Paul George or whomever else comes into the equation, they play a perimeter guard-oriented style of play. And when you're going up against teams that have an inability to create their own shot, the Clippers are capable of running you out the gym. When you're going up against a team that is fully capable of that, you got a different animal. And by the way, I completely disagree with you that Devin Booker, even though he's a star and he can create his own shot, not quite Kobe-esque. I'm sorry. The Devin Booker that I'm looking at, I haven't seen him have a problem getting his own shot at all.
Well,
all
no, but not
season
to
long.
the extent
This
to the
dude is
extent that
something
Kobe
special.
could. I mean, look, I love Devin
Excuse
Booker.
me?
That's why I love Devin Booker. Devin Booker idolized Kobe and was mentored by Kobe. I'm not the only person that's calling him a mini Mamba. You're now saying he's the next Kobe Bryant. We're in a large group of people who make that comparison. But I don't think Kobe Bryant was the best bad shot maker who ever lived. Meaning he always had a shot available to him. I'm not slighting Devin Booker. I'm just saying in that regard, Kobe's in a class by himself.
And
All
I
I'm
guess,
saying.
for me, Eddie Johnson, a former NBA player who does a great job on SiriusXM's NBA radio, he calls Suns games out here. And if you listen to him talk about Devin Booker, I mean, nobody has pointed out the greatness of Devin Booker more than he has, because he watches every game, because he calls every game. And when you look at Devin Booker, he just kept imploring people all year long, because whenever I get a chance, it's not often, but whenever I get a chance, I'll listen to his show. And all year long, he's been beating that drum about Devin Booker. He's like, watch this kid. And the guy, you know what? When you talk about bad shots, Max, there aren't too many bad shots that he takes. You know why? Because he finds a way to get himself open.
Yep.
I mean, he doesn't say what Ocho Cinco says, I'm always open. That's Ocho Cinco's favorite line, I'm always open. He doesn't say that. But when you look at Devin Booker, it seems congested. It seems the area's congested. It seems that he's being guarded. But then all of a sudden, it's one move, it's one push off, it's one level of elevation, and somehow, some way, he always looks open when it's time to shoot. The kid's special.
Right. Let's keep it rolling, fellas. And now to